Restless spoilers for Tuesday, July 7th reveals Diane Jenkins, Susan Walters, will be charged with 2 counts of attempted murder. Also coming up, Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, will move Nikki Newman, Melody Thomas Scott, back onto the ranch. Plus, Patty Williams, Stacey Hayduke, will have deadly plans for Jack Abbott, Peter Bergman. And Jill Abbott, Lauren Koslow, will catch up with Sally Spectra, Courtney Hope. YNR spoilers tease Victor will ask Victoria Newman, Amelia Heinley, how her mother is doing. She'll say she's trying to stay positive and the hospital is going to release her. You've been so kind and generous, Victoria will add. Just let her come home. And Victor will agree to it. YNR Daily Scoop, Jill's thrilled about the wedding and the baby. Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow, will call and tell Victoria their mom has been released. And soon enough they'll be at the door and Nick will help Nikki inside. She'll sit down on the couch, ask if Victor's there. He'll say he is and she'll thank him for letting her come home. At the Park Cafe, Sally will meet with Jill. She'll tell Sally she's thrilled about the upcoming wedding and the baby. But there was one thing that surprised her. That I told him you were the silent investor for Abbott Communications, Sally will reply. I really hope you can forgive me. Jill will say yes, she just needs to get her son to forgive her. At the police station, Diane will ask Detective Burrow, Matt Cohen, if she can go. Michael Baldwin, Christian LeBlanc, will show up and say Kyle Abbott, Michael Mealer, brought him up to speed on what was going on. How is this happening? Diane will ask Burrow. Patty attacked Jack, not me. Burrow will say the DA seems to think they have enough evidence to charge her with 2 counts of attempted murder. Dr. Markham claimed in his statement that you and your son drugged him. But Diane will say the doctor held her hostage. Then Burrow will question Patty. He'll ask if she still waives her right to counsel. Of course, I'm the victim, she'll reply, telling him Diane walked in on the 2 of them. Then she'll tell him the lie about Diane's mental breakdown. As for Dr. Markham, he'll tell the cop that Patty isn't a threat to anyone, but Diane is. And he'll proceed to describe what happened at his house. Patty asks how he let that idiot escape. Later, Dr. Markham will meet Patty at the park. How could you let that idiot Diane get the best of you and escape, she'll ask him. But Lawrence will point out that stabbing the man she's supposed to love was never part of the plan. Patty will remind him they're in this together. We are not safe as long as Jack Abbott is alive. Back with Diane, Michael will say he has to ask if she did it. The answer is no, Patty did this, you know that, she'll reply. And if Jack wakes up, Patty will try to silence him forever. But Michael will say Patty's been cleared and Diane's going to be arraigned on 2 attempted murder charges. Meanwhile, Kyle will sit by his father's hospital bed, willing him to live. You've got to come back to us, Dad, he'll say. Do you hear me? Kyle will add that there's another reason he needs to wake up. Patty swore up and down that Diane did this. Mom needs you, now. Then Billy Abbott, Jason Thompson, will arrive and Kyle will tell him Patty claims Diane did it. Tracy Abbott, Beth Maitland, will arrive and be very upset. How much more can this family take from that madwoman, she'll say to Billy. Kyle will say obviously Patty's rehabilitation was an act and he hopes the police don't fall for it. Finally, Michael will pull some strings and get Diane out on bail. She'll rush to the hospital to be by Jack's side. Why isn't he awake yet, she'll ask Kyle, Tracy and Billy. Diane will tell Jack he needs to come back to them. I need you to work through this, so we can find forgiveness like we always have. From my point of view, this storyline explores how far desperation can go. Diane rushes to Jack's side after making bail. Patty tells Markham they're not safe if Jack lives. Freedom comes at a price. The fluorescent lights of the county jail buzzed overhead as Diane Jenkins slowly stepped through the final security door. After hours of questioning, paperwork, and anxious waiting, she was finally free on bail. The cool afternoon air hit her face, but instead of relief, she felt a wave of dread. Jack Abbott. That was the only name echoing through her mind. Every news report she had overheard inside the jail painted a grim picture. Jack remained hospitalized after the brutal stabbing that had shocked Genoa City. Although doctors had stabilized him, his condition was still serious, and investigators continued searching for everyone connected to the attack. Waiting outside was Kyle. His face showed signs of exhaustion from sleepless nights. "Dad's still hanging on," he said quietly. "The doctors say he's fighting." Diane closed her eyes for a moment. "I have to see him." Kyle hesitated. "The police are watching everyone who comes near his room." "I don't care." They climbed into Kyle's car and drove toward the hospital in silence. Every traffic light felt like an eternity. Every minute wasted felt unbearable. Inside the hospital, the atmosphere was tense. Security officers stood outside Jack's intensive care room while nurses hurried through the halls. Victor Newman had arranged additional private security after hearing rumors that whoever attacked Jack might try to finish the job. Nikki sat quietly in the waiting room with Ashley and Tracy. None of them noticed Diane until she slowly walked through the hallway. Ashley immediately stood. "You've got some nerve showing up." "I came because I love him." "You came because you're the center of another disaster." Before the argument could escalate, Kyle stepped between them. "This isn't helping Dad." Tracy gently touched Ashley's arm. "Not now." Ashley reluctantly stepped back, though her icy stare never left Diane. Inside Jack's room, machines beeped steadily. Bandages covered much of his chest and shoulder. His face was pale, but his heartbeat remained strong. Diane slowly approached his bedside. Tears filled her eyes. "I'm here, Jack." She reached for his hand. "I should have protected you." For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, Jack's fingers moved. It was barely noticeable, but Diane felt it immediately. "Jack?" She leaned closer. His eyelids twitched ever so slightly. Outside the room, Kyle noticed the heart monitor change rhythm. He rushed inside. "Dad?" The nurse quickly entered. "I need the doctor." Within moments, several physicians surrounded Jack's bed. Everyone was asked to leave. Across town, hidden inside an abandoned lake house, Patty paced nervously. Dr. Markham watched her from across the room. "You need to calm down. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." "No." Patty's breathing became faster. "If Jack wakes up." She stopped. "Everything falls apart." Markham folded his arms. "He barely survived." "But barely isn't enough." Patty looked directly into his eyes. "We're not safe if Jack lives." Silence filled the room. Markham finally spoke. "So what are you suggesting?" Patty slowly smiled. "We finish what was started." Back at the hospital, the doctors finally emerged. Kyle stood first. "How is he?" The lead surgeon smiled faintly. Mr. Abbott responded to outside stimulation. Diane looked hopeful. "Does that mean he'll wake up?" "We're cautiously optimistic." Hope spread through the waiting room for the first time in days. But no one realized danger was already moving toward the hospital. Late that evening, Markham parked several blocks away. He wore a baseball cap and dark jacket. Security around the hospital was heavier than expected. He studied every entrance, every camera, every guard. Then he quietly disappeared into the shadows. Someone inside that building had to make sure Jack Abbott never spoke again. And Markham intended to find a way. A dangerous night. Night settled over Genoa City, but no one inside Memorial Hospital found any peace. Every hallway seemed quieter than usual, yet the silence carried an uneasy feeling. Outside Jack Abbott's intensive care room, 2 security guards remained on constant watch, while nurses checked on him every few minutes. Diane refused to leave. She sat beside Jack's bed, gently holding his hand as the steady rhythm of the heart monitor echoed through the room. "I know you can hear me," she whispered. "You've survived impossible situations before. Please don't stop fighting now." For just a moment, Jack's fingers tightened around hers. The movement was slight, but unmistakable. A hopeful smile crossed Diane's face. "You heard me." The attending nurse noticed the response and immediately called for the doctor. Within minutes, the medical team gathered around Jack once again. "This is encouraging," one physician said. "He's responding more consistently." Outside the room, Kyle, Tracy, Ashley, and Nikki waited anxiously. When the doctor emerged, everyone stood. "Mr. Abbott is making progress," he explained. "He's still in critical condition, but we're becoming more hopeful that he'll regain consciousness soon." Relief spread through the family. Only Ashley remained guarded. "If he wakes up," she asked quietly, "will he remember what happened?" "We simply don't know." Those words lingered in everyone's mind. If Jack remembered his attacker, everything could change. Several miles away, Patty became increasingly agitated inside the secluded lake house. She paced from one window to another while Dr. Markham reviewed a map of the hospital. "You were gone too long," Patty said. "I was observing." "And?" "Security is much tighter than we expected." Patty slammed her hands onto the table. "Then find another way." Markham remained calm. "Rushing in would guarantee failure." "But if Jack wakes up before we act?" Her voice cracked. "We're finished." Markham stared at her for several seconds. "I may have another option." Patty slowly looked up. "What kind of option?" "A distraction." Back at the hospital, Victor Newman arrived unexpectedly. Kyle was surprised. "You came." Victor nodded. "Whoever attacked Jack may try again. Until the police catch that person, everyone connected to this case remains at risk." Nikki embraced Victor tightly. "I just want this nightmare to end." "It will," Victor replied firmly. "But first, we protect our family." Victor quietly spoke with the head of hospital security, requesting additional personnel on every floor. No chances would be taken. Near midnight, Markham returned. Instead of approaching the main entrance, he entered through a nearby parking structure connected to another medical building. Wearing hospital scrubs beneath his jacket and carrying a clipboard, he blended into the stream of overnight staff. No one questioned him. He calmly walked through several corridors before stopping at a service elevator. He smiled. So far, so good. Inside Jack's room, Diane had finally fallen asleep in a chair beside the bed. Kyle quietly covered her with a blanket before stepping into the hallway. At that exact moment, one of the lights flickered. Then another. Seconds later, the entire floor suddenly went dark. Emergency backup lighting activated, casting long shadows across the hallway. An alarm sounded. Nurses rushed in every direction. "Power failure. Check the ICU." Security officers immediately spread out. The confusion created exactly the distraction Markham had hoped for. He slipped unnoticed toward Jack's room. Only one guard remained outside the door. Markham lowered his head and continued walking, pretending to be responding to the emergency. The guard barely glanced at him. He was almost there. Inside the room, Jack's eyelids fluttered once more. His breathing became stronger. Slowly. Very slowly. His eyes began to open. Before Diane could react, she heard footsteps outside the door. The handle slowly turned. Someone was coming in. And that someone wasn't a doctor.